In WWE, there are names who didn't just win titles or chase the spotlight, they shattered barriers that stood for decades. They brought charisma, talent, grit, and pride into the ring, turning every entrance into another page of history being written. From the trailblazing legends who fought through the toughest eras, to the modern stars who've ruled WrestleMania, this is our tribute to the greatest black wrestlers of all time in WWE. Let's get started right now. Wrestling Sphere, go! Number 10. Abdullah the Butcher. If you had to pick one name that defines matches that paint the ring red, Abdullah the Butcher is almost always the first answer. The moment he showed up, the crowd knew one thing. Tonight, safety wasn't on the menu. WWE or any territory that ever booked him understood the deal. Abdullah wasn't here to put on something pretty. He was here to drag his opponent into the mud, and drag the audience right into that mix of fear and can't-look-away fascination. They used to introduce him as the madman from Sudan, even though in real life he'd never even set foot there. But that label was just the wrapper. What made Abdullah a legend was the presence. Silent, brutal, moving slow but heavy like a sledgehammer, almost always with that familiar fork in hand, the prop that turned every brawl into a scar, literally and figuratively. His matches didn't just leave marks on his body and his opponents. They branded themselves into the viewer's memory like a nightmare you somehow want to replay. In a lot of places, Abdullah was treated like a special attraction. He'd come in, cause chaos, and disappear before the crowd could even catch its breath. And because of that, he created countless classic rivalries. Terry Funk once said one of the 3 best matches of his entire life was against Abdullah in Japan. Praise heavy enough to tell you just how wild those wars really were. And then there was Bruiser Brody. Every time they collided, it proved something simple. You don't need to be textbook, you don't need to be clean, you just need to feel real, and the crowd will be locked in. Abdullah may have never held a world championship, but his legacy of violence and pure savagery, stretching across 5 decades, carve his name into pro wrestling history. Number 9. Kofi Kingston. If WWE has ever had a story that made people believe sometimes miracles are real, Kofi Kingston is that story. Ghana's Pride didn't walk into WWE with built-in hype. He walked in with that stubborn kind of perseverance that says, keep working until they have no choice but to notice. Kofi never needed to force himself into a cold, intimidating tough guy. He won fans over with something rare. Joy that didn't feel fake, energy that didn't feel forced, and a vibe that always made the whole crowd want to rise with him. With Kofi, it's all about pace. He wrestles like a high flyer, fast and smooth, but what matters more is how he turns small moments into big memories. Every springboard, every dive, every last-second escape, Kofi moves like he's playing games with gravity. That spirit made him the perfect piece of the new day, a pillar of positivity, where the smile isn't there to hide weakness, but to declare they're going to win their way. The new day can be hilarious, but once the bell rings, Kofi always proves there's a serious elite wrestler behind the comedy. And then the thing everyone thought would never happen, happened at WrestleMania 35. Kofi faced Daniel Bryan and won the WWE Championship. Not a token win, not a quick feel-good moment. This was the kind of victory that makes an arena hold its breath, and then explode. People didn't just see a title change. They saw the full journey of someone who used to be written off as the fun mid-card guy, now standing under the biggest lights and finally getting validated. Even WWE framed it as one of the night's biggest emotional peaks, and the crowd felt it like a statement. Perseverance isn't always rewarded, but when it is, the whole world goes quiet before it erupts. And if we're talking about Kofi's signature specialty, you can't skip the Royal Rumble. He practically turned saving himself from elimination into a personal brand. The rope hangs, the flips, the toes landing on the tiniest safe surface at the last possible second. Risky, creative, and over leaving fans on their feet because they can't believe what they're seeing. Kofi Kingston isn't just famous because he flies high. He's famous because he always finds a way not to fall. And that's basically his entire WWE story. Pushed to the edge again and again, still staying upright, until one day, he didn't just survive. He reached the top. Number 8. Ron Simmons. If younger fans only remember Ron Simmons for a catchphrase that's literally just one word, that's honestly kind of unfair. Because before he became the uncle who says one word and makes the whole arena explode, Simmons walked a road rough enough to earn real respect. He was a standout football star at Florida State, turned pro with big expectations, And then life hit a hard pivot when the USFL folded in 1986. One door slammed shut, and Simmons had to find another way to keep chasing the spotlight. He found it in pro wrestling. And the deeper he went, the more he proved this wasn't some side quest. In WCW, he and Butch Reed formed Doom, a true tag team machine, heavy, tough, violent, and built to flatten whoever stood in front of them. They didn't dominate with flashy tricks. They dominated with that feeling of, touch them once and you're bruised. And Doom didn't get an easy schedule either. They went to war with legendary teams like the Rock and Roll Express, the Steiner Brothers, the Road Warriors, the Freebirds. The kind of lineup that screams combat just reading it. Then came August 1992. Doom split up, and Simmons suddenly landed at the exact crossroads of history. A planned title match between Sting and WCW champion Vader got scrapped because of Sting's kayfabe injury. Bill Watts held a draw to pick the new #1 contender, and the slip pulled Simmons' name. That night, he planted Vader with a power slam that hit like a sledgehammer, and he became the first black world champion in pro wrestling history. He held the title for 5 months, but that moment? That lived forever. After a short run in ECW, Simmons headed to the WWF. Even though his early days came with that bright green helmet that looked like a toy, he still brought the seriousness back when he joined the Nation of Domination. And even without another singles world title like his WCW peak, he still made sure his legacy stayed loud, winning the tag team championships 3 times alongside Bradshaw as the APA, a team that could hit hard and entertain at the same time. In short, Ron Simmons is the kind of guy you respect and you'll be fine. Mess with him and that's on you. Number 7. Sasha Banks. If you talk about the women's evolution era without Sasha Banks, it's like telling history and skipping the most explosive chapter. She walked out with the nickname, The Boss, not to play background, but to demand the spotlight. In NXT, Sasha became known as part of the Four Horsewomen, the group that helped turn women's wrestling from a side segment into something people followed like the main story. And Sasha, with that confident swagger and pure stubbornness inside the ring, always made opponents look like they were paying a price just for daring to stand in her way. Sasha's strength was never about winning easily. It was the opposite. She won through emotion. Every match felt like a high-stakes negotiation for survival. She knew how to pull the audience into her breathing rhythm, when to speed up, when to freeze the entire building with one look. The accolades speak for themselves. NXT Women's Champion, then on the main roster she grabbed Major Gold, Raw Women's/WWE Women's, SmackDown Women's, and the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. But what separated Sasha wasn't just the collection. It was how every title reign felt like a power statement. And then came the historic moment. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania, the first time 2 black women fought for a championship on the grandest stage of the year. That wasn't just a match. It was an image that meant something, a milestone people can point to and say, yeah, that's when the door truly got kicked wide open. Today, Sasha continues her journey under the name Mercedes Moné, and she's found major success in AEW, still carrying the same mindset. Wherever she goes, she's coming for the center of the spotlight. The name might change, but the aura doesn't. Number 6. Mark Henry. When you talk about a true power monster in WWE, Mark Henry is almost the blueprint. He wasn't just big. He felt like a breathing wall, the kind of presence that made the air heavier the moment he stepped forward. And the nickname, World's Strongest Man, wasn't just something that sounded cool. Henry brought that label with him from real life. WWE always leaned into his elite weightlifting background. He competed at the 1992 Olympics, then went on to collect gold, silver, and bronze at the Pan American Games. That resume tells you everything. You're not looking at a wrestler who was built in a gym. You're looking at a legitimate strength athlete, someone raised on pressure and numbers that don't lie. When WWE signed him in 1996, they didn't just sign a massive body, they signed a rare kind of force. Henry's career didn't explode instantly. There were stretches where he was stuck in roles that didn't give him enough room to show how dangerous he could be. But Henry never vanished. He kept stacking experience, sharpening his craft, and slowly turning his presence into a warning. If you lose focus for even a second, it can end with one slam that hits like a sledgehammer. The peak came when Henry finally got his hands on the World Heavyweight Championship, a moment that felt like the power monster had been placed on the right throne at last. He also held the ECW Championship and the European Championship, reinforcing his status as a real threat on any show he walked into. In 2018, Mark Henry was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And honestly, it just confirmed what fans already knew. Henry wasn't simply strong, he became WWE's symbol of strength. Number 5. Junkyard Dog. In an era when crowds believed in real emotion more than any special effects, Sylvester Ritter walked out and did something not everyone can do. He made the entire building rise up just with his presence. As the Junkyard Dog, he didn't need long speeches or complicated tricks. JYD was a natural babyface, the kind of guy who shows up on screen and you automatically want to cheer, automatically want to stand with him, and automatically want to believe he'll win no matter how dirty the other side plays. His first big breakthrough came in Stampede Wrestling, where Ritter started getting noticed as a rough gem with explosive potential. But it wasn't until he became a cornerstone of Mid-South Wrestling under Booker Bill Watts that JYD truly turned into a phenomenon. There, he didn't just win matches, he pulled the audience into white-hot stories. The most infamous angle was when the Freebirds blinded him right before his daughter was about to be born. It wasn't just shocking, it was the kind of storyline that made people furious, screaming, ready to jump the barricade. The heat got so intense the Freebirds reportedly needed police escorts in and out of arenas. And in the middle of that chaos, JYD became the image of justice the crowd needed to see rise back up. Then he signed with the WWF at the exact moment the company was starting to boom, and it was a perfect collision. A true mainstream star meeting a machine that was accelerating fast. JYD worked because kids loved him for being cool in a down-to-earth way, and adults loved him because he fought like it mattered and carried that street hero aura. In the WWF's first golden era, he was a key piece in turning the company into something the whole family watched together. Even if he wasn't a wrestler defined by titles, JYD still stepped into major feuds with names like Harley Race, the Funk Family, and Greg Valentine. Matches that would make anybody sweat. And he left his mark by winning the Wrestling Classic, the first pay-per-view event in WWF history. Junkyard Dog didn't need to stand on top with gold to be called a legend. He stood on top with belief, the kind an entire generation of fans placed in him, the same way they did with Hogan or Jimmy Snuka. And once you make a crowd believe in you completely, you don't fade away. You become immortal. Number 4. Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair is the kind of star where the second she walks out, you instantly get why WWE calls her the EST of WWE. That isn't a cute slogan. It's a statement. The strongest, the fastest, the toughest, the most athletic, and most importantly, the most confident. Bianca never entered the ring like a talent waiting for a chance. She entered like the chance already belonged to her, and everyone else just needed time to catch up. Right now, Bianca is one of the most beloved women on the roster because she has the full package: elite-level athleticism, a champion's presence, and the ability to turn every match into a high-energy show that still tells a story. Her resume reads like a checklist of the modern era. She's held the WWE Women's Championship/Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, and the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. And then there's the moment that kicked the door down, winning the 2021 Women's Royal Rumble, the most convincing knock on WrestleMania's front gate you could ask for. But the night Bianca went from fan favorite to symbol was WrestleMania 37. Main event. Biggest lights. Heaviest pressure. And across from her stood Sasha Banks, a name that can make hands shake just by being on the other side of the ring. Bianca didn't show up to be part of history. She showed up to take it. That match ended with Bianca defeating Sasha to win the SmackDown Women's Championship, in an atmosphere that felt like the entire stadium held its breath, and then exploded. WWE made sure to spotlight the fact that it was the first time 2 black women headlined WrestleMania, and that's what gave the moment a weight far beyond any title belt. And after WrestleMania 38, Bianca proved she wasn't a moment champion. She delivered a 419-day reign as Raw Women's Champion, a number that speaks for itself: consistency, star power, and the trust WWE put behind her. Bianca Belair isn't just someone who wins matches. She's the kind of champion who makes you believe, this is the face of this era, and she's here to stay. Number 3. Bobo Brazil. When people talk about the names who helped break wrestling's color barrier in the 1960s, Bobo Brazil is almost always mentioned in a different tone, not just respect, but gratitude. Because he wasn't simply a popular wrestler. Bobo permanently changed how black wrestlers were viewed, how they were presented, and whether they were allowed to stand at the center of the ring. Starting his career in Detroit in the early 1950s, Brazil entered a world where the unwritten rules could feel heavier than anything on paper. Early on, he was mostly booked against other black wrestlers, a cold, obvious limit that everyone understood and no one needed to explain. But then something began cracking the entire structure: the crowd. Fans were drawn to Bobo's natural charisma, the way he moved like a force of nature, the feeling that this guy is different. And once the audience demanded him, promoters couldn't ignore it forever. People wanted Bobo in bigger matches, tougher matches, the ones that mattered, regardless of skin color. That's why his accomplishments felt like milestones, not just wins. He's often regarded as the first black wrestler to win the NWA United States Championship, a clear signal that the old wall was starting to split. In Detroit, he also defeated the original Sheik to capture the local version of the title, ending the Sheik's 2-year reign, a victory that wasn't just about gold, but about toppling a powerful local symbol. And then there's the story that always follows Bobo Brazil's name with a bitter asterisk. In 1962, he defeated Buddy Rogers for the NWA World title. But Bobo initially refused to accept the belt because Rogers went down in a way that looked like a real injury, and Bobo didn't want it to feel like he stole the championship under those circumstances. Later, the title was still awarded, and then Bobo lost it back in the rematch. Because he refused the belt at first, and because the title change happened outside NWA's official authority, that short reign was never recognized on paper. But a lack of recognition can't erase the truth. Bobo Brazil was the first black wrestler to touch a world championship in the real, technical sense of the word. That alone, along with the barriers he broke inside the ring, is more than enough to place Bobo Brazil among the greatest legends of all time. Not because he was given an opportunity, but because he forced the entire system to make room. Number 2. The Rock. Anytime someone slips and says, WWE has never had a black champion, there's almost always an instant wave of pushback. Wait, what about The Rock? And then, like an annoying internet reflex, somebody jumps in with, yeah, but he's only half black. It sounds like a technical argument, but really it's unfair, and it's dismissive. Because whether people agree or not, The Rock is a black athlete. Saying he's not black enough to count isn't analysis. It's erasing part of who he is, like his heritage only matters if it fits someone else's narrow definition. The Rock is a third-generation wrestler, and the generation right before him is his father, an Afro-Canadian known as the Soul Man. That alone should make it clear his story isn't vague, no matter how badly some people try to twist it into one. He isn't a label you get to slap on or peel off whenever it's convenient. He's a person with multiple bloodlines, multiple legacies. And him reaching the top didn't make his African roots disappear. If anything, it put them in front of the biggest spotlight possible. And honestly, the rest doesn't even need defending. The Rock ranks high on every list because he was a rare phenomenon. Physically, he was built for wrestling. Strong, fast, explosive. On the mic, he was untouchable. Every line hit like a punch, sharp, funny, and just cocky enough to send an arena into a frenzy. He had what people chase for an entire career and never find: unreal charisma. When Rock walked out, the atmosphere changed. Fans could hate the character in the storyline and still be glued to every step, because he turned everything around him into an event. Plenty of people have held titles in WWE history. Not everyone makes holding a title feel like, this is a real superstar. Rock did, and then some. He didn't just become one of wrestling's biggest global icons. He blew the doors open and crossed into Hollywood, then climbed to the top there too. Some names get famous because the timing was right. The Rock got famous because he's The Rock. And that's enough. Number 1. Booker T. If there's one name that instantly smells like a living legend, Booker T is right there. He wasn't the kind of star who got the red carpet from day one. Booker rose through matches, sweat, and years of being underestimated, then forcing people to put respect back on his name. And when you talk about the most celebrated black performers of the modern era, Booker T shows up like it's automatic, because his resume is too stacked to ignore. Starting alongside his brother Stevie Ray, Booker built his foundation in tag team wrestling before truly exploding in WCW. Harlem Heat wasn't just a solid team, they were the kind of duo where, the moment they walked out, the crowd believed somebody was about to get hurt. But Booker didn't stay locked in that comfort zone. When he transitioned into singles competition, it was like he took the restraints off. Faster, sharper, meaner, and carrying an energy that demanded attention. He won nearly every major title, again and again, became one of the hottest acts in the company, and ended up as one of the most decorated champions in WCW history. In WCW, Booker had momentum, presence, and that unmistakable feeling of this guy is a franchise player. His character evolved constantly without losing its core. Sometimes he was the explosive street fighter. Sometimes he leaned more into entertainment. Sometimes it got a little offbeat. Spinner Rooney and G.I. Bro are remembered because that era was weird like that. But the key point is this. No matter what costume WCW or WWE handed him, Booker found a way to make it work by injecting real personality. He didn't just play a gimmick, he gave it life. When he arrived in WWE, the road wasn't smooth. He was part of the WCW-ECW alliance and had a visible role, but he often got treated like the second guy, and sometimes even used for punchline material. Booker could get pushed down, but he didn't disappear. Teaming with Goldust helped him find his rhythm and reconnect with the crowd, and more importantly, it proved Booker wasn't just a winning machine. He could entertain while still feeling dangerous. And when he finally rose to the top of SmackDown and became a world champion, the Booker Man completed what a lot of people never managed to do. He survived every box, every label, every moment of being overlooked, and still stood tall as a legend. Booker T didn't just have championships. He had a journey that makes you nod and say, without hesitation, this man earned it. And that's our list of the top 10 greatest black wrestlers in WWE. Do you agree, or is there someone you'd add? Drop your picks in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere for more great videos.